Greetings. I'm Denise Long, Principal Consultant and founder of Youth Centrics Therapy Services. In this video, I'm addressing why it's difficult to understand racialized trauma and respond to racialized trauma in sensitive ways. In a previous video, I defined racialized trauma and how it happens. You can view that video and preview our trauma responsive training on the Youth Centrics YouTube channel. Click the subscribe button while you're there. So let's dig in. If you've watched my previous videos, you know that psychological trauma is any negative event that overwhelms a person's ability to cope. And cope means the person's ability to show up and perform their roles, meet their responsibilities, and create and maintain healthy relationships. Remember that racialized trauma arises from the negative events that people experience or are more likely to experience because of race and racism. Just like general psychological trauma, racialized trauma affects a person's ability to show up and meet their obligations. It's difficult to accept that other adults are still affected by what happened to them in childhood or what happened to them in the past. American society, especially, is rooted in a value for grit and being tough and being able to take a licking and keep on ticking, right? It's difficult to accept that people can be so profoundly affected by what happens to them. We don't always think about how people experience vicarious trauma from what happens to other people in their racial group. Recent surveys with Black Americans show that their mental health has been affected by seeing and hearing about police shootings of other Black people. Teachers are affected by watching Black students and students of Hispanic descent be more harshly disciplined in schools. Asian Americans and Indian Americans are affected by the stereotype of them being model minorities. A recent survey further revealed that Black American employees and other non white workers are stressed about returning to predominantly white in person workplaces because of the things their colleagues say and the things they do that are racially insensitive. They're also anxious about the resistance they'll get when they give feedback to racial microaggressions. Those truths, that data, that feedback is difficult to hear because we as a nation are still grappling to accept that racism is not a thing of the past. Many of us struggle to accept that racism is a current issue. That denial affects our ability to respond to racialized trauma. That denial affects our ability to prevent racial traumatization. So, what the data shows us is that we are not a post racial society. According to the United States Justice Department, nearly 60% of bias attacks and incidents are motivated by race, ethnicity, or ancestry. People's lives are greatly affected by what they experience. People's lived experiences prove that we are not a post racial society. Far from it. What the data shows us is that people are still profoundly affected by the mistreatment they experience because of their race. If we can't accept that racism is real, you can't accept the impact of racism, which is racial trauma. If you can't accept racism is real, you can accept racial trauma. If you can't accept racism is real, you'll see no need to adjust your behavior. You'll see no need to hold others accountable for the jokes, the intrusive questions, the racially insensitive social media memes, how workers talk to and about each other. Accepting that racism is real does not mean you are racist. It means you can clearly see that, Houston, we have a problem. Then we can begin to heal the racial trauma. Then we can decrease the prevalence of racism and decrease the racial trauma caused by it. To learn more about the trauma informed and equity focused work happening at Youth Centrics Therapy Services, visit us online at www.youthcentrics.com. Youth Centrics provides allied and behavioral health services, implementation consulting to organizations, and a learning lab to accelerate your mastery of trauma informed and equity focused practices. If you are a business leader interested in bringing trauma informed and racial equity to your organization, you can reach out to us by emailing me, Denise at youthcentrics.com. Our learning lab at YouthCentrics is receiving applications and is open for enrollment in our Master Trauma Informed Practices Accelerator program. We are ready and able to support your professional development needs. Until next time, stay safe and well.